One. Hey, people, and welcome to Conversations with Zalon. Now, for this episode, I was scrolling along my Facebook feed, and one of my Facebook friends, I say friends as well, actually, who I had known for many years, posted this on her status. And I found it really interesting, really intriguing because I had a very similar experience. And I just wanted to just get her into the conversations with Zalon. I kind of wanted to hear about her experience. I wanted to hear a bit more about the article. Yeah, I'm going to introduce her now. Her name is Elaine. Elaine, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me, Zalon.
My
Thank you.
absolute pleasure. Thank you for agreeing to do this. I've we were just speaking offline now about I went to college with your sister, right?
Yeah,
And I was saying that somehow, like I used to go college with your sister, but somehow I didn't know who you were, and somehow you've replaced your sister, and now I never see your sister, and then I always
yeah,
see you popping up. You've been to a few shows, I've seen you around, and we've spoken like quite a bit online. I think you introduced me to the Clubhouse thing. You
yeah,
mentioned it to me as well, and we have a lot of mutual friends as well, right?
yes.
So I kind of wanted to read firstly the thing that kind of caught my eye, and then I kind of wanted you to maybe explain a bit more. You posted an
Okay,
article. The article was "The Day My Voice Broke: What an Injury Taught Me About the Power of Speech." I didn't read the article, but I somehow came across your comment, and it said, "I lost my voice for 2 years. I had 3 operations on my vocal cords to remove the lesions. It was quite traumatizing, as I was a really talkative person before and spent most of my 20s and 30s with a sporadic voice. When I had no voice, it was the most miserable experience ever. Very isolating, and dealing with people who weren't empathetic was eye opening. I spent my time communicating via typing or writing. Being in virtual meetings was painful." Now, I think there's quite a few different sections to unpack there. So, firstly, what was the article? Could you sum up what the article was about?
so the article was talking about a guy who's a singer who went through the journey of losing his voice, and through from his diagnosis through to the treatment of having the operations, which was similar to mine, and then what happened afterwards. And it resonated with me a lot because I don't sing, I'm not a teacher, and I've had a lot of speech therapy over the years as they have tried to pin down what the issue with my voice actually was. I was told that maybe it's how I actually use my voice, and how I use my voice is that I'm just literally talking. Um, they and I've been to so many different hospitals around Northwest London, and if it wasn't for where I was working at the time, and going back to my GP after I'd lost my voice for, I think it was from August till December 2017 at that point. Um, and when I went to my doctor over and over again, when I would be told it's like hay fever, it might be asthma, as I said, you losing how I use my voice, etc., etc. So I saw a different GP within the practice, and I said, "Look, look at my history. I've had, I've seen gastroenterologists, I've seen ENTs, I've had people check to see if it's my thyroid. I've been told it's pharyngitis, which is the inflammation of your pharynx, laryngitis, upper respiratory tract infections. They gave me so many different types of antibiotics. And as a woman, when you're given antibiotics, it might be treating something up here, but it will throw other bits of your system out. I was told it was acid reflux, and I'd had stomach issues from when I went to Ghana and got a really bad stomach infection, and so I did have acid reflux, and so you could feel the burn, and it felt like the whole of my system was pretty much screwed. My ears were hurting, my stomach was hurting, but my throat was not there. I could not speak. And so my GP, who's absolutely amazing, and she said, "This doesn't look right." And and I said, well, I've got private medical insurance. And I said, okay. She said, cool. And I said, so I just want you to refer me. I'm not waiting any longer because I've waited from August now through to now. My voice hasn't got improved. And I know if you've got any symptoms that last longer than 2 weeks, you really should be going to see your doctor because it could be generally it is something sinister, because if it's like a normal cold, you'd get over it. If it's like any kind of infection, it should normally run through you. And if say I saw my GP on the Monday, she wrote a letter so if I could get a referral to the Clementine Churchill on the Tuesday. So Clementine Churchill's in Harrow, and I saw an ENT there, and if I and they did what they've done to me many times before, and that is they put a tiny camera through your nose. It goes all the way down your throat and will hit your stomach.
Wow.
And I was like, I've
Ooh.
had this many times. Yeah. And I've had it many times when I went to see the gastro, when they diagnosed the acid reflux, and they said various other things as well at that time. But this time, the difference between that camera and what I'd had before was that when I saw the doctor privately, the camera was attached to the computer monitor, so they could actually see like the microscopic changes. And he said, "Ooh, something doesn't look right there." And I thought, shit, does that like? And when you're saying these, when I'm hearing these things, I went from 0 to 10, and I thought, okay, God, these people might say I've got cancer.
Right. Of course.
And so he said, okay, you need to get a second opinion. I'm like, okay, cool. So because remember, I don't sing, I'm not a teacher. I work in the corporate world where lots of our jobs are done by email. And yes, I'm talkative, but in the office, I really wasn't. So when I got a referral again, this time I went to the private wing at Mount Vernon, which is in Northwood, and I saw the lead consultant there. And then I got my diagnosis that basically I had lesions on my vocal cords, and they were all over my vocal cords, and they said that I would need to operate on them. But he said that it's a problem that I might have had from when I was a child. And as I've said, I've always had sporadic voice issues. So if you were to look at but they become more pronounced in my 20s and 30s. And so talking to people at my school, basically like, yeah, you always used to lose your voice at school.
Right.
And I also used to always have really bad nosebleeds. When I say really bad nosebleeds, they lasted for ages, but they were dealt with. And I was like, oh yeah, I always did. And because this is always me, you don't think anything different unless it starts to be a very long period of time. And so he said, okay, so this is into December. He said, we can't really operate now because I think I saw him on December the 18th.
Mm-hmm.
So I had my first operation on January the 2nd, 2018. Mm-hmm. Then I had to go through the complete voice rest, which is not a problem because I had already not been speaking for
considerable amount of time.
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's when but before, when I wasn't really speaking, I was still trying to talk. And if anybody knows anything about the vocal cords, your vocal cords are probably the smallest muscles that you have in your body. And when you're talking, they kind of do this. Mm-hmm. And so if you've got any form of lesions or any kind of growths or any obstacles, it's actually causing a lot of pressure onto your vocal cords. And and I was told I wasn't allowed to whisper. They said that whispering actually is like punching you, like if you were to punch somebody in your face repeatedly, that's what whispering is like, because you're utilizing a different form of muscle.
Yes.
I was like, okay. And so I stopped whispering. But as I said on my post, what I found very enlightening when it came to the lack of empathy is because, for want of a better word, and the fact that my voice issues could come back, just because I've operated on it before doesn't mean that it may not come back again.
Right.
I've had voice issues since I was a child. Right. So it's kind of like a hidden disability, but I'd never tell anybody that I was disabled because I've managed to get through life with not being able to talk.
Right.
You find people shout at you,
Wow.
as in you can't speak, so they will speak louder to compensate. You'll find people whispering at you. You'll find people talking over you. And
Wow.
it was very, yeah, it was very humbling. And I think I ended up having to go counselling for it afterwards because it was like a bit of an adjustment, because I went counselling after the first operation because my voice still wasn't better. I sounded like a cross between MC Creed
Wow.
and Marge Simpson's sisters. And so then people now think that maybe my voice sounds the way it sounds because I probably smoke 70 a day,
Right.
except I've never smoked before.
Right.
And I encountered people at work who were like, I don't know why she's pretending she can't speak. I don't understand why she's working from home. It's like, you don't really need to work to come in, but it's because even with the voice rest, when you've had an operation here, it took a very long time to recover. So I haven't even really been back to the gym since because it was under general anesthetic. And at the point, and as soon as I'd got better, then I went to have another operation. And as I said, I had 3. And I was literally trying to get back into the swing of going to the gym. And then we had the pandemic.
COVID. Right.
Yeah.
I understand. So, and do we know what the lesions were caused by?
So they said that it might have been caused by a virus. And so there might have been a virus that I might have got when, maybe from as a child.
It was just never sorted.
Yeah.
Right. I understand. And I find it very interesting the fact that you said you lost your voice and like the shift in dynamics happened where people would either shout at you or they'd like really speak to you and whisper. I'm presuming when you said that it's condescending. Is that right? When they would it or not?
And it did feel condescending. I feel that they probably thought that they were empathizing with me.
Right.
Because that's the other thing as well. So when you've lost your voice, if you don't know what the issue with the voice is, telling me that you've lost your voice, like, you know, like if you like, I've lost my voice because of my hay fever. I've lost my voice because of this period, and it's very different. And like, or if you lose your voice because you've got a cold, so say, yeah, I lost my voice because I had a cold, and it was like, nah, it's all right, really. And the amount of doctors that we have around us, the amount of doctors,
Facebook doctors, but in real life, or work doctors that they've just suddenly
drink honey and lemon. Yeah, I drink honey and lemon. I've got so much honey and lemon. Oh, you should try turmeric rum. You should drink rum. Oh, you shouldn't drink rum. You should do this. You shouldn't do that.
Right.
I know. Thank you. Why are you going to have an operation? Why do you trust the doctors?
Right.
I don't think that a doctor would want to operate underneath general anesthetic, which is dangerous in itself. And also, one of the risks of the surgery was
I'm listening. Sorry, I'm just grabbing
losing my voice completely.
Say it again.
And
sorry.
one of the risks of the operation, because as I said, your vocal cords are so small, is that you could potentially lose your voice completely as well.
Right.
And so I don't think it's not that I have blind faith in medicine, but I don't think that it's in any doctor's real interest to be operating and opening up people just so, whether it's private or underneath the NHS.
Sorry, I'm just trying to plug my charger in at the same time. If you just give me 1 quick second, while you're explaining, this is really crazy. I'm not sure why my charger is not working. So I found it interesting. And I mean, what you said you had counselling afterwards. So obviously that must have been a massive impact on you.
Yes, and the reason I had counselling is because it was, for me, it was so traumatic, and as you've seen me out and about, and you've seen, I'm pretty much, I've always been like the life and soul of the party. I,
Yes.
I always like, why I love clubhouses, that I love to talk. From a little kid, I was little Miss Chatterbox at school. And so it's not to say that my identity very much was about talking. If it's about communication, I actually really dislike WhatsApp. I
Okay.
prefer a phone call over WhatsApp, and then to away having to take away that part of my identity of not being able to speak
Yes.
at all,
Yes.
um, was was really hard. And I remember that I remember like one, I think it was at the Christmas, and my niece and one of my nephews, they were fighting. And then one of their cousins came to get me and were like, oh, I was like, why are they coming to get me to tell them off? I can't actually speak. And so then when I tried to speak to them, all the kids in the room were crying. It was like, why? Auntie, we're sorry for being naughty and sorry for making you speak. And I was like,
Uh,
okay, thank you. And I saw that there was definitely a lot more empathy with
from the
the children.
children.
Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. You know, I guess this resonated with me like a lot. Basically, I first went to Brazil in 2011 with Amy, and it was one of the most amazing experiences because I got 15 minutes in the middle of her world tour, and I was performing my songs and songs I produced with Mark Ronson, and it was just great. And that was 2011. And then Amy, no, 2010. And then I think Amy passed away 2011.
Yeah.
And so my world obviously changed, right? Because she was such a massive support to me. Now, around 2013, I was looking after my sister who had cancer at the time, and she eventually, after a 9-month period, passed away. And 2 months, no, I think she passed away the 19th of March. And I think I got a solo tour in Brazil, which was March, April, May. So like 2 months afterwards, I got my first solo tour. I was so excited. And just before I was about to go, I got a little bit ill, right? And I don't know if it was the change in temperature, the temperature shift or whatever it is, but it affected me. And I went and had a fantastic tour, but it was something that was at the back of my mind. And it was something I was so looking forward to, but I was a little bit ill. Then 3 years later, I had another tour in Brazil. It was 2016. I think I went twice that year. And I got ill again. So I'm fine. I was at home. I go to different places. I'm fine. But then I go to Brazil, and then I got ill. I didn't know what it was. I don't know if it was the air conditioning in the plane. I didn't know if it was in the hotel, the food, the client. I just didn't know what it was. And I had to perform. People were really, I was headlining a festival. People were really looking forward to the concert. And I couldn't give them my 100% because my voice wasn't 100% because I was ill. Now, because of my experience, they wasn't necessarily aware of it because I would sing around it, but I still felt it because I really wanted, like every show I tried to give my all. After I left that tour, is like I came to the realization that I have really put everything into my voice. Like this is me, like this is what I've worked towards. And I kind of started to I felt like depressed because I felt like, well, this is what I've worked towards and it could be just taken away. And if it's taken away, then what would I do? And it stumped me because I thought, what if I have an accident? What if I something happened? I think this is the biggest concern for any singer, right, is that if you lose your voice and that you're not able to sing, right? And so that's when I started to transform into thinking, okay, well, I'm in my prime. I want to be able to add more value, and there's more to me than just singing. So then I thought about, okay, well, maybe if it's not just about me doing shows, then maybe I'll do a clothing line. That's how I started my clothing line, because I started to think of what else can I add within the space, right? And then that's how I have my festival, because it was like, what else can I add into the space? You know, and then I had like an agency, which I helped other singers to get on platforms. And now I'm creating a masterclass that all the things that I've learned for singers. So it kind of allowed me to learn other skills and put other skills into the space to add value to people, right? And so I came to that realization. So when you were saying that, how, you know, you felt like where it says how the injury taught me about the power of speech and all these kind of things, I felt like, wow, I also resonate, because I felt like I lost, or I could have lost everything I had built, and I was vulnerable, and so to speak, you know?
So, you know, as a singer, have you ever had singing lessons?
I have, yeah.
Okay, because I was going to say that when I've had my numerous speech and language therapies, a lot of the exercises they give to me are the vocal training that singers have to do, because obviously it's from the diaphragm and not from here. Not as I think I've mentioned it to you before, that I would never, and I think I don't know if you realise that it's because of the fact I had lost my voice that I'd say I couldn't sing. It was when it was your birthday thing, and you was going to do the happy birthday.
Oh, and I
Yes.
came into the audience, or
No, a few weeks ago when you were asking people.
Oh, okay.
Because I said that people would laugh at my singing, and I don't really sing seriously because, like, I'm told I'm rubbish now. But I do know you're supposed to sing from the diaphragm, and I'm trying to remember my lessons. And I can't imagine what it would be like for a singer. Who's the singer who can't sing? Julia Andrews. Like how
Right.
she has completely lost her identity as a singer. Because for me, I'm just Elaine from the block. I've got other things I can write, I can do whatever. And if I never was able to speak again, it wasn't that I was ever Elaine, a talk show host, or Elaine, a teacher, or anything else, like I said. It's just that happens that my speech is, like, to me, even though it's not sense, my most important sense.
Yeah.
But for a singer, that is actually your identity.
Yeah, it's the singer's worst nightmare, really.
Yeah.
And it forced me to have to consider, well, if this does happen, then what are you going to do? You know, and sometimes, I mean, this is just kind of like a random thought, which I just thought about. Sometimes I think about speech, and I think about how powerful speech was, and that we can communicate something that we are thinking and feeling in our mind and be able to communicate it. Like, if you imagine, like, just take communication out, like this power of speech out, when we were probably like cavemen, if we were such things, and then you add speech and how much like unity or connection or understanding that it brings, and how words are able to like describe something to like the finite detail that you can follow an instruction. I just sometimes marvel at the power of communication and the power of speech as well. So yeah.
And the intonations, because
And oh wow, that's another thing. Sorry, that what you just said there added to, like, I felt like it was sometimes I'll be blown away by the simplicity of like speech, as I told you, communication. But as you said, intonations is something I can now add to that, because the way how I say it or how I focus, on a word can have a completely different meaning. There is a sentence, I don't know, I can't remember what it was, but it's like a sentence like it's like something like, oh, I don't want to eat now, for example, right? And it's like, I don't want to eat now, which is like me, I don't want to eat now. So I don't want to eat now, but maybe I want to drink.
Yeah.
Right? Or I don't want to eat now, Which is okay, but is it later you want to eat? So depend. It's the same sentence, but depending on where you accent, it has a different like intention behind it, which is also very interesting as well.
And that's why I love Clubhouse, Zalon. That's why I love Clubhouse, because to me it's like Twitter or Facebook, but with the voice. And then that way you can't really get into beef because you can hear my tone. You can hear if I'm being sarcastic or if I'm being genuine, or if I'm just, you know,
How often are you? How often do you are you on Clubhouse?
don't tell people. Yeah, this week I've kind of toned it down, but I host a couple of rooms, but I'm in Clubhouse, I'd say maybe 4 times a week.
Cool. And what kind of subjects like motivate you or inspire you?
So I run a room about the last book I read. My other thing that I really like is soaps. Soaps are my passion. I think that it's amazing. The Elon Musk room was just amazing, not because of, it's amazing from a societal perspective that one man, like when people talk about influencers and they talk about those people who go to Dubai and do whatever, those people aren't influencers.
Yeah.
Elon Musk is an influencer.
Yeah.
Elon Musk said, he mentioned Bitcoin. The
Yeah.
price of Bitcoin went up.
Yeah.
Elon Musk tweeted that he's going to be in Clubhouse. He shut it down, as
Yeah.
in like the app became unstable. There
Yeah.
were about 30 different rooms of 5,000 people listening to Elon Musk around the world.
Are you serious?
I am serious.
There was what 30 rooms of
30 rooms, and then maximum.
how did they get to hear him in each room?
Because there will be one person would be streaming the room into another room.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow, that is influence. If I could have my life all over again, I'd like to have the influence of Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg, because Mark Zuckerberg was on it this morning as well. And again, it shut down.
What do you think is the commonality between the two of them?
I guess obviously it's a tech app, and particularly during lockdown, if it wasn't for tech and Elon Musk being the real Iron Man and Mark Zuckerberg controlling us with WhatsApp and Facebook and Instagram, this is how we have communicated now for the past year.
I mean, what's the commonality between
Oh,
Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk? Because you did say that if you could come back, you'd like to be
like
such
that.
a
I
yeah.
think it's the fact that I do think it is the influence that they have over the world and their techie genius, because tech is the future. I'm not a technical person at all, but whether it's something as simple, if we go back to our initial conversation, that when they put the scope, the laryngoscope in my nose down to my throat, the fact that rather than them looking at it through the naked eye at one of the hospitals up the road, to attaching it to a computer monitor so they could actually see, that's the power of tech.
Right.
Now, that is something quite simple when you think about it, because even somebody like, is it Galileo, when it came to the telescopes, you know, when you magnify it, you'll be able to see more.
Sure.
And so that's like why.
I have a different view.
Mm-hmm.
I think in its simplistic form, I believe that they add value.
Mm-hmm.
And that might seem like quite a general sense, but I feel that they've become an influence because they've added insane amounts of value to people's lives.
I'm going to take that quote.
Yeah, that's what I believe. And so I say that to say, when you say if you was to come back, I believe in this time, if you add insane amounts of value to people, you will have an influence.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
So you can do that with your Clubhouse, right?
Yeah.
Is like if you are consistent in creating insane amounts of value, then people will be like, you're the person to go to. Many people do it in so many different forms, right? And value, for example, we could like, let's say, for example, in the story of Mahatma Gandhi that we're aware of, where he has empathy and compassion for so much people. He's added more value to others than himself, which means we remember his name. When we think about some of the great black leaders, they were that were killed. They were adding value to the cause, trying to educate people, trying to uplift people. So I'm saying Michael Jackson, he dedicated his life to allow people to feel the highest form of entertainment because he was giving them the most amount of value. So I'm saying you can do that now. It can be done in all different forms. And if it's soaps, there are people around the world who may be really, really interested in soaps. I've got you on here, and for somebody, they're gonna be may have gone through this, or will go through it, or have had been through it, and you would have added value to them. Like your post gave me value because it gave me a form of connection. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. Thank you.
My
No, I
pleasure.
like that. I've nicked it.
That's
I'll quote
fine.
you.
Yeah, please do. Please do.
I'll quote you.
Yeah, cool. So, all right. So, what was the article? What was the like? Just give me a sum up of what the article was basically saying. You said he was a singer, and what happened to him?
So he started to, his voice started to deteriorate, pretty much like mine did. However, his diagnosis was polyps, which I understand a lot of singers and teachers get. Again, they're benign tumors that grow up on your vocal cords as well, but that is due to the way that your voice, you do use your voice, and I'm pretty much, even though we had a different diagnosis, the journey that he underwent and his attribute, what he, the journey that he went, his emotions that he conveyed were pretty much everything that resonated within myself. And the fact that he, like myself, defined himself through his voice. He talked about the psychological impact as well as the physical impact. He talked about the impact of stress as well, because another way that I've lost my voice in the past, and why I think that you may have lost your voice when you were in Brazil, may also have been down to stress, because yeah, you're traveling, etc. How much time did you allow after you landed to actually sing? Even like something as simple as the altitude, the moisture in the environment, you'd have to maybe adjust the way that you sing when you're there. And also maybe at the back of your mind, especially when it came to the second time, Brazil may now be associated with negative feelings because of your two bereavements that you experienced that you might not necessarily have been able to unpack. I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a counselor, I'm not a coach, but sometimes when you might not even realize that the impact, well, obviously you would know the impact of losing people who are close to you, but the way that stress can manifest itself in you is mad. Like it could be the stomach aches. That might be the reason why you could get acid reflux. It could be something like a headache in somebody else. But for you, because you are your voice, your weak point is likely to be your voice.
It's funny you say that. When I was coming up and I was doing college, I would prepare for these shows, and I always wanted to create an experience. So like I would like go above and beyond, and like I would have, like, if there was a projector screen, I'd have like two of my faces interacting, and I'm singing and doing all sorts of stuff. But it always seemed that just before the show, I'd often get ill, right? And so it could be the fact of like pressure or stress or really wanting to, do a good job. That also could be a determining factor as well. I find it, I guess, as I've kind of settled into my career and made it less about myself and more about the audience and the experience, I find that it happens less nowadays. Funny enough, though, the last festival, I mean, I can't even, we've been in lockdown for a year. We're in 2021. So
It was
2020. So it was 2019 was my festival. Was when the last time it was on. It was in December, and my brother's band was headlining my festival. I wanted to, and I was going to host it, and I would sing in places. And my brother got the flu, and then my brother gave it to me. And he tries to say it wasn't him, but it definitely was him, right? And this wasn't me losing my voice for something. This was just definitely like a flu. And on the day of my festival, I was supposed to host it and I was supposed to sing some songs. And I had people like, followers had come down because they wanted to see someone traveled from abroad. And I literally could not sing at all. In one way, for the first time, I was reminded about the fact of when I was in Brazil and I think, oh, what am I going to do? But I had put precautions in place in the sense of I now had this whole festival around. My voice isn't working, but we're still able to add insane amounts of value. Like I think my brother had like 16 people on stage with routines and all sorts. It's one of the most insane shows ever. And the audience was able to get so much value even though my voice wasn't there. And then I just came on at the end, and I think the band like sang happy birthday to me and all that kind of stuff. But it didn't feel like if my voice isn't good, then that's it, it's done, So yeah, I mean, talking about that as well, you have someone like Mariah Carey. People over the years have mentioned about her voice. She was performing at such a high level for so many years. I mean, I don't know her situation, but it occurs as if her voice has been worn out over the years. And she always used to whisper, or she used to write down. And obviously, as you said before, whispering is like the worst thing ever. And I remember like, obviously, if you lost your voice, you think automatically that whispering is the thing, right? You think, let me just like, but as you said, you're using a different part of your voice, and it's actually the worst thing for you.
And also the stress that you have on other parts of your body, whether it's your back, everything else, is like contracting against you. And I know, I can imagine, like, especially like when you're like a singer at a high level and like I'm doing my total voice rest. People really don't get it, but it's actually important. And when I had the operation, as I said, it was under general anesthetic, which meant that, with my voice, I wasn't able to drive from the hospital around the corner from my house. So imagine it's that serious that they're going to put you under sleep. And then when you come home, you've got to literally just rest. If I had an operation on my leg, if I had a broken foot or like something in my stomach or an arm, if you said to people, I can't rest, I've got to rest this, and they can see it, they get it. But as a singer, as a person using this, people don't.
Can I ask you a question? In when you had the operation, did it hurt afterwards?
Yes.
Could you speak?
So
I know you was advised not to, but could you speak?
I didn't even try.
Okay, good.
I wasn't even allowed to cough, because coughing again is a bit like again punching you.
Disrupting, yeah. But how can you avoid not coughing?
They told me that I should cough. If you've got cystic fibrosis, there's a way that you can cough rather than the violent way, and it's sort of like so that it's a different kind of movement. Yeah. And I also had
wow.
I was given like a plastic tube, a bit like one of my straws, and I had to like do exercises with a plastic tube and a bottle of water, and to build up the resistance back in my vocal cords.
Wow.
And as my voice got stronger, I had to like put more and more water in it and basically blow into this bottle, singing or humming "Happy Birthday" and other songs along with it. So
yeah, these are techniques that many singers use today.
Yeah.
That's amazing. How long did it take your recovery period?
So from the last op being December 2018, I'd say I didn't get my voice back until August 2019. As in, people actually said, wow,
like 9 months or so.
you actually sound like normal now, and it didn't feel
Wow.
like my voice was going to break in between. Um, and I didn't, because in my head, apart from when the voice went completely, and when I say completely, I mean like standing in the middle of a field, in the middle of the country, where there are no birds, and then try to say a sound and nothing comes out. And that's what happened to me in August.
Yeah, I get it because I've had that experience, and it's also very scary when it lingers. And so I've lost my voice where my voice isn't 100% for like like a few months.
Yeah.
Like it's not 100%. Like I could sing, but like the top register is just not coming back. And it kind of happens every now and then. But whenever it happens, it's have I?
Yes.
Have I been to a specialist? No, I think I was planning to go the last time, but I guess I've not had a need to, or I thought to. Do you think it's a good idea for me to?
I think that if you, I'll start off with anything, if it's a prolonged period of time and anything longer than 2 weeks is, I think you should go and see a doctor. Also, because you're a singer, and I'm imagining that you might just sing randomly just because that you're obviously working your voice in a different way than I would when I'm talking.
Yeah.
And so I will definitely recommend seeing somebody. They might be able to, not saying that you have to be invasive, like to have not, but if they see what's going on there, maybe see a speech and language therapist as well. So I went to the ear, nose and throat hospital in central London. And that was the last one. It was really good because they gave me so many different techniques than I've ever had, because I've had 3 different bouts of speech and language therapy. And honestly, if it's there, go and use it,
Sure.
especially because
Yeah, no,
it's
absolutely.
your tool.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so I want to say thank you so much, Elaine, for
No
sharing
problem.
your story with us and your journey. We're happy that we're able to talk to you, and we're
Thank
happy to be
you.
able to hear your lovely voice. And yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I hope that it adds a perspective or value to people, whether somebody is going through. Also, I think there's something you touched on, which is people having a disability that is unseen, and
Mhm.
people having compassion for that. I think that that's also another takeaway as well. So I want to thank you so much. Share, like, subscribe, and yeah, see you soon.
Thank you
Take
very
care.
much.
My pleasure. Take care.